Chapter 1. The Job. I never thought a minimum wage job would nearly kill me, but then again, I had never worked at the Hollow Stop. It's a small, lonely convenience store planted on the edge of Highway 163 in southern Utah, where the desert stretches forever and silence feels heavier than stone. The first time I saw it, the evening sky was a burning red, the mesas glowing like dying embers. The store looked out of place, like some forgotten outpost holding the world together with nothing but buzzing fluorescent lights and a flickering neon sign. Hollow Stop, half the letters already dead. I was running on fumes. My car's tank had been sitting on E for miles. When I pulled in, there were no other cars, no sounds except the whine of cicadas and the occasional rush of desert wind. Inside, the air smelled faintly of dust, burned coffee, and old mop water. Shelves lined with faded snacks, expired-looking candy, canned goods. The kind of place that shouldn't exist, but somehow did. That's when I noticed the sign taped crookedly to the counter, "Help Wanted, Night Shift." I had been drifting for months, burned bridges, too many jobs left half-finished. The idea of steady money, even in this nowhere town, sounded like salvation. Behind the counter sat a man in his 60s, with weathered skin and sharp, dark eyes that seemed to see right through me. "You looking for work?" he asked, his voice carrying a quiet authority. I nodded. "You'll take nights then. I'll take whatever you've got." For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was measuring something unseen. Then he gave a single, short nod. "No paperwork," he said. "No interview. If you want the job, it's yours." Relief washed over me so fast it almost felt wrong. "What's the catch?" I asked, trying to smile. The man didn't smile back. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper, setting it gently on the counter. "These are the rules," he said. "Follow them, every night. If you don't—" He paused, his gaze hardening. "You won't last until morning." I laughed, nervously. "Rules? Like, what, don't steal the Slim Jims?" He didn't laugh, not even a twitch of his lips. His silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until I felt the smile die on my face. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You'll see." His voice was flat, final. "Do your shift, follow the rules, and the sun will come up. That's all you need to know." I pocketed the paper, trying to play along, trying not to show how unsettled I felt. When I stepped back outside, the desert night had fallen in full. The cliffs loomed darker now, and the highway stretched empty in both directions. I looked down at the slip of paper in my hand, and that was the first time I read the rules. Chapter 2, The Rules. I sat in my car with the paper in my hand, the engine off, the desert night pressing in like a heavy blanket. The rules were written in shaky handwriting, each number underlined twice as if to hammer home the importance. They read, 1. Never look out the front windows after midnight. 2. If someone knocks on the glass, do not answer. 3. If you hear your name whispered, ignore it. 4. At exactly 2:33 a.m., the power will go out. Stay behind the counter. Do not move until the lights return. 5. If an animal enters, do not mistake it for what it pretends to be. 6. Leave the store before sunrise. Never stay past dawn. I stared at the words, a half laugh caught in my throat. They didn't read like employee policies. They read like the ramblings of someone half mad. But something about the way Jonas had looked at me, the quiet weight in his voice when he'd said, "You won't last until morning," it settled in my gut like a stone. Still, I shoved the paper in my pocket. Maybe it was some local joke. Maybe Jonas just wanted to mess with the new guy. The next night, I showed up 10 minutes before midnight. The desert air was colder than I expected, biting through my jacket. The Hollow Stop glowed faintly in the dark, that flickering neon buzzing like a tired insect. Inside, Jonas was waiting. He was leaning on the counter, sipping coffee from a battered thermos. "You read them?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Cute." His expression didn't change. "Not cute, life or death." I shifted, uncomfortable. "You mean like coyotes or something?" His eyes held mine, steady and grim. "No, not coyotes. Don't try to explain it. Don't try to understand it. Just follow the rules." He stood then, stretching his stiff shoulders. "I'll see you in the morning," he said, and without another word, he left. I watched his truck disappear into the dark, the sound of gravel crunching under the tires fading into silence. The store was mine. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The clock on the wall ticked closer to midnight. I leaned against the counter, trying to shake the unease gnawing at my chest. The rules were still in my pocket, the paper crinkling every time I moved. I told myself they didn't matter, but even then, I think a part of me already knew. By the end of that night, those rules would be the only thing standing between me and something I wasn't ready to name. Chapter 3: The Knock. The first night on my own passed quietly at first. I stocked shelves, cleaned the coffee pots. A lone trucker came in around 11, bought cigarettes, and left without a word. At 12:07 it started. A knock. Sharp, deliberate. Against the glass doors at the front of the store, I froze. Jonas's words slammed into my brain, never look out the front windows after midnight. The knock came again, louder this time, then slower. Knock, knock, knock. My throat went dry. Every instinct begged me to glance over, just a quick peek, but my hands clutched the counter like a lifeline. The knocking stopped. For a moment, silence. Then came the scraping. Something dragged across the glass, slow and steady, like claws or nails. The sound crawled down my spine. And then, letters began to appear on the glass, not written from my side, from the other side, forming my name, ETHAN. The letters stretched long and thin, smudged as if carved with something sharp. My breath caught, my legs trembled. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but stand frozen. The scraping stopped, then a final knock, hard enough to rattle the glass. And silence. I didn't sleep when my shift ended. Even when Jonas came in at dawn, I couldn't tell him what I'd seen because saying it out loud would make it real. And I wasn't ready for real. Chapter 4: The Whisper. The second night was worse. The store felt heavier somehow, like the air itself was waiting for me to mess up. Around 1 a.m., I was sweeping near the back when I heard it. "Ethan!" I froze. That was my mother's voice, soft, familiar. "Ethan, come outside." Rule 3. Ignore it. My heart hammered. Then came another whisper, lower, rougher. My father's voice, gone 5 years now. "Ethan, we're waiting." My chest locked up. "Don't you love us?" I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my hands over my ears. But the whispers grew louder. They weren't just outside anymore. They were inside. Right next to me, behind me. And then, worst of all, one of them was my own voice. "Ethan." Open the door. I bit down on my tongue hard enough to taste blood, forcing myself not to answer, not to look. Minutes dragged into eternity. Finally, silence. The rest of the night passed without a sound. When morning came, I stumbled outside, the sun like a blade cutting through the nightmare. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. It was only beginning. Chapter 5: The Blackout. By the third night, I didn't even try to convince myself the rules were nonsense. At 2:30, I sat behind the counter, staring at the clock. My whole body trembled with dread. At 2:33 exactly, the lights snapped out. Darkness swallowed the store. The hum of the fluorescent lights died. The refrigerator motors stilled, and something else filled the silence, scratching from aisle 3. Slow, long, like something dragging itself. My breathing grew shallow. I gripped the counter with both hands, nails digging into the cheap laminate. Then came footsteps, heavy, wrong. Too many joints bending, each step out of rhythm with the last. And then, breathing, wet, ragged, animalistic. It circled the counter. I felt air move against my skin, like something had brushed past me. A hot, damp exhale brushed the back of my neck. I wanted to scream, to run, to swing wildly at whatever was there. But I didn't move, because Rule 4 was clear. Do not move until the lights return. The thing lingered behind me, close enough that I could feel the weight of its presence, hear the slick sound of saliva in its throat. Then silence. And after what felt like a lifetime, the lights flickered back on. The store was empty, but on the counter in front of me, where dust had gathered, was a single handprint. Too large, too long, fingers bent wrong, and on my neck, a smear of something wet. Chapter 6, The Animal. It was around 1 when the automatic doors hissed open. A golden retriever trotted in, scruffy, tail wagging. For a moment, relief washed over me. Something normal, something harmless. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, crouching slightly. The dog tilted its head. Then I saw its eyes. They were too human, too knowing. My blood ran cold. The dog padded closer to the counter, sat, and stared. Then it opened its mouth. "Ethan," it whispered. I stumbled back, knocking over the coffee pot, scalding my arm. The dog's lips curled in a grotesque grin, showing too many teeth. Then it whimpered, a high, keening sound, half dog, half human. It limped toward the door, dragging its paw as though broken. "Help me," it said, voice wet and strangled. Tears burned my eyes. My instincts screamed to help, to follow. But I stayed rooted behind the counter. The thing limped outside, turned, and looked back once more. Then it bolted into the desert, running on all fours impossibly fast. I didn't chase it, and I never will. Chapter 7, The 7th Rule. Before my 5th shift, Jonas handed me another slip of paper. "There's one more rule," he said quietly. On it, in the same shaky handwriting, 7. "If you see me after 3 a.m., it isn't me." I wanted to laugh, to say something sarcastic, but the look on his face stopped me. That night I clung to the counter like a drowning man to driftwood. At 3:14 a.m. the door chimed. Jonas walked in. "Shift's over, Ethan," he said casually. "You can head home." My blood froze. The real Jonas never came at night. The thing smiled, tilted its head. "Don't you trust me?" Its voice was too smooth, too rehearsed, and then its smile stretched, wider, wider. Its jaw unhinged, bones cracking. Its eyes glowed faintly, red and hungry. I grabbed the baseball bat from beneath the counter and swung with all my strength. The thing shrieked, not in pain but in fury. It dissolved into shadow and slipped through the cracks in the floor. I stood panting in the silence, bat trembling in my hands. And I knew then, without a doubt, that the rules weren't suggestions. They were survival. Chapter 8, The Final Night. Jonas told me, survive this night, and I'd never have to return. But whatever I did, I had to leave before sunrise. The store was restless from the start. At midnight, the knocking began, furious, constant, shaking the glass in its frame. I shoved a shelving cart against the doors, though I knew it wouldn't help. The glass bowed under the pounding fists of things I couldn't let myself see. By 1, the whispers had grown louder, dozens of voices overlapping in a chorus that made my skull throb. They knew my fears, my memories, my regrets. "Ethan, it's safe now. Open the door, son. Come home. Come back to us." My hands dug into my ears, but the voices bled through. I scribbled the rules over and over on a scrap of receipt paper, whispering them under my breath like a prayer. Don't look. Don't answer. Don't move. Don't believe. At 2:33, the lights died. The store plunged into a blackness so thick it felt alive. And then came the footsteps. Not one set, many. A crowd. Shuffling, dragging, circling me in the dark. I dropped behind the counter, hugging the floor, heart pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. Something slammed against the counter inches above me, then another. Heavy, wet thuds, like bodies throwing themselves against the laminate. A whisper inches from my ear. "Don't you want to see us?" My throat locked. My body screamed to run, but Rule 4 kept me frozen. When the lights flickered, back on, I gasped. There were handprints all over the counter. Hundreds of them, smearing dust and grease. Some with claws, some with fingers bent backward. The light cut out again. This time, the creatures didn't just circle. They climbed. I heard something pulling itself onto the counter above me, joints cracking, saliva dripping onto my hair. Another crawled beneath the shelves. too fast, too insect-like. I couldn't take it anymore. I crawled out from behind the counter, breaking the rule, because staying put felt like death. The lights flickered on again, just long enough for me to see them. Dozens of shapes filling the store, some tall and spindly, faces sagging like wax, others bent backward running on all fours. One had my mother's face, but stretched wrong, eyes too wide, teeth too sharp, and all of them turned toward me at once. The lights snapped off. I bolted. I grabbed the bat, swung wildly at the dark as claws scraped the tiles inches behind me. Something grabbed my jacket. I tore free, leaving fabric in its grip. The voices screamed louder, overlapping into madness. My own voice joined them, urging me to stop, to give in, to make it easy. At 3:14, the front door slid open with a hiss. Jonas walked in, calm, steady. "Shift's over, Ethan, come with me." Behind him came the golden retriever, tail wagging. Behind that, my parents, my father's hand outstretched. For a heartbeat, I wanted to believe. I wanted to run to them, let it all be over. Then Rule 7 echoed in my head. If you see me after 3 a.m., it isn't me. The fake Jonas's smile cracked too wide. His eyes glowed faint red. They advanced, slowly, patiently. I swung the bat until my arms burned, knocking displays over, scattering cans and bottles like improvised weapons. I hurled a glass bottle into Jonas's face. It shattered, but he didn't bleed. He only grinned wider. By 4, the store was a war zone. Shelves toppled, glass littered the floor. My body was covered in cuts and bruises. Every clock tick felt like eternity. By 5:30, the voices turned desperate. The knocking on the glass turned into pounding, hard enough to spiderweb the doors. At 5:47, pale blue light began to seep into the sky. Dawn. I ran for the back exit, lungs burning. The fake Jonas screamed in fury, voice splitting into 100 overlapping tones. "You can't leave." The creatures surged toward me, a tidal wave of twisted forms. I crashed through the back door, sprinting into the desert as the horizon bled with sunrise. When I looked back, the hollow stop was alive with shadows clawing at the windows. Faces pressed against the glass, mine among them. And then, as the first full rays of sunlight hit, everything vanished. Silence. The store stood empty, still, and I kept running until the sun was high in the sky. Chapter 9, Aftermath. I never went back to the hollow stop. I don't even know if it's still there. Part of me wonders if I drove past that stretch of highway now, there'd be nothing but dust and empty desert. No store, no sign, no proof it ever existed. But I know better. It's still out there, waiting for the next unlucky bastard to need gas at midnight. I left Utah that same morning, driving until my eyes blurred, until the tank was bone dry and I collapsed in the parking lot of a truck stop 2 states away. The workers found me curled in the driver's seat, clutching a baseball bat like a lifeline. They asked if I'd been mugged, if I was on something. I told them I was fine. I wasn't. I haven't been fine since. Nights are the worst. I moved into a small apartment, 3rd floor, double locks on every window. But it doesn't matter, because the rules, they didn't stay in Utah. The first night home, I woke at 2:33 a.m. The power went out. Every light, every hum of the refrigerator, every device, gone. And I knew. They'd found me. I stayed frozen on my bed, clutching the bat, whispering the rules under my breath until the power flicked back on. It's been weeks now, but it hasn't stopped. Sometimes, just past midnight, there's a knock at my door. Not loud, patient. Sometimes it's my mother's voice calling my name from the hallway. Sometimes I hear my own laugh outside the window, 3 stories up. I keep the blinds shut tight. I never answer, but the cracks are showing. Last night I slipped. I heard crying outside my door. A little girl sobbing, begging to be let in. I almost turned the lock. My hand was on the knob when I remembered Rule 2. Do not answer. This isn't survival anymore. It's war. I don't sleep much. When I do, I dream of the store, the buzzing neon, the whispers, the faces in the dark aisles, and always I dream of the glass, something knocking. Sometimes it's me on the other side, smiling, patient, waiting for the moment I finally give in. I don't know how long I can keep this up, but I do know this. If you ever find yourself driving through Utah and you see a lonely convenience store with a flickering neon sign that says, "Hollow Stop," don't go inside, because once you follow the rules, they'll follow you forever.